Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's broadcast on Maconi Entertainment. My name is Jeff Maconi, and I am joined in the booth by Eddie Smith, who's also working the controls as our producer. Our camera angles tonight are, as always, provided by Dougie Beard. Tonight is the return of the Ignite Racing League's JP Alfonso Studios GT3 series with action at Road Atlanta after a few weeks off for the holidays. What a way to ring in the new year with some incredible racing on a very fun course to drive. Coupling some very long straightaways with a mix of slow and fast corners, this track will lead to some amazing racing over the 1 hour session that they have. Some more information about this track. It is 2.54 miles long and it is in Brazelton, Georgia. It opened in 1970 with the most recent major change in 2008. It combines long straightaways with both fast sweeping curves and 90-degree turns, as well as an uphill S's section that can really bite you if you don't hit it correctly. This place has a seating capacity of 120,000 spectators. I don't think we'll have that many in the chat, but people who go back and watch this will be sure to enjoy the racing here as qualifying has just wrapped up and they get ready to get to the race for 1 hour of racing. At the top was Giancarlo Schliemann, Nick Sorensen in second, JP Alfonso in third, Daniel Ott in fourth, Philip Forrester in fifth, Kerry Cantera in sixth, Juan Salazar in seventh, John Barry in eighth, Matthew Lutz rounded out the 9 cars that took a time. Mark Royce, though, is also ready to hit the track for a 10-car field. Eddie, you got a lot of work to do tonight, both announcing and working the controls as a producer, but are you ready for this awesome event tonight?
Man, I couldn't be more excited. I've been watching these guys for quite a few weeks now as sort of a behind-the-scenes type of guy, and man, they've put on a heck of a show, so much so that I've gotten into GT3 racing myself just based off these guys alone. Some of the best racing that I've seen. These guys, when they get together, they're not pulling any punches. They're going hard as they can, trying to get every spot. And the racing has been phenomenal. Smaller fields, maybe a 10-car field, but the racing is every single person is packing a punch.
Absolutely. These drivers are all very talented, and I don't blame you for getting into the GT3s. A lot of people use this as an opportunity to test their setup building abilities because this is open setups in this series. They use it as an opportunity to get the track since the GT3s were updated. I think with only 10 cars out here, though, we are going to see the best driver come out on top. They have to be smart. They have to take advantage of pit strategy. And with only 10 drivers on track as well, that's going to limit the amount of draft that they have, which will make a difference in the GT3 cars. We do, as always, have to thank all of the sponsors that help make this possible. The title sponsor for tonight is JP Alfonso Studios. Mr. JP Alfonso himself, when he's not busy doing some amazing tattoos, is busy practicing for the GT3 series. He qualified third, 7/10 off of the leader, Giancarlo. So they are a local tattoo shop to Road Atlanta. They are in Norcross, Georgia, and you can go to jpalfonsostudios.com for all of their recent work and booking information. We also want to thank the series partners, Tam Livery and Hot Rod Setups, for all their work to make this series possible and broadcast you live right here on Maconi Entertainment. And a big thank you to the whole team behind the scenes that help make all of these events possible and bring them to life. If you have any questions or want to see yourself and your series on our network, be sure to find us on Facebook or Twitter. Anywhere where you can find a Brace broadcast, you'll find us there. Shoot us a message and we will get you live just like these 10 cars out here tonight.
You know, I've got a great question for you. Talking about JP Alfonso, no wins on the season yet, still is the points leader with a average finish of second place, which I think is pretty amazing considering that Juan Salazar has 4 wins. Pretty interesting to see that play out. Juan Salazar with a point penalty that kind of put him behind the 8 ball, but a 3-point swing is enough to take the point standings for JP Alfonso. So, Giancarlo Schliemann, he's sort of a latecomer in this series, but has been pretty dominant. So, interesting to see who is going to maybe stretch their legs a little bit on these long straightaways tonight.
It absolutely is. I'm very excited to watch it. JP Alfonso himself just said, I don't know why I'm so nervous. And it might be because of what you said. He's the points leader. He hasn't gotten that elusive win just yet, but he's had some very solid runs, and he's certainly been the most consistent. He's kept himself out of trouble. He's avoided any major wrecks, and I'm hoping that I don't put the commentators' curse on him by saying that. As they come through these turns here, you see it's a not quite double apex. There's a bit of a small straightaway, sort of like Indianapolis, it reminds me of here between these corners. This is a very, very difficult section of the track because you can easily overdrive the first of the two turns, and then you sort of underdrive the second turn, which will hurt you severely for this very, very long straightaway that these drivers are going down right now. You see on the track map there on the right, towards the end of this straightaway, it's a hard left, 90-degree left, followed by an immediate 90-degree right, before a full speed straightaway all the way to the start finish. Then you get to a just about 90-degree, we'll call it 90-degree right-hander, up the S's, and then you take a left at the top of the S's, more S's than Watkins Glen. It's a very difficult section of the track to get through, and then you are right there in the double right-hander, we'll call it, for tonight. This is a very fun track. Michelin Tire owns this speedway, actually, so I think we'll see a lot of drivers performing well here tonight. I'm not sure if the GT3s drive on Michelins, but tonight maybe they'll work out some sort of deal with the track. The green flag flies in the air. JP Alfonso with a rough start, checks it all the way up. He falls back to fourth. They're 3 wide behind, looking for second, though. JP Alfonso makes a big dive in. They almost go 3 wide, think better of it, and now JP Alfonso back to third. And we see out front Giancarlo pulling away. Nick Sorensen behind him in second. Third, JP Alfonso in fourth. Juan Salazar, Daniel Ott now comes in fifth as they go into the S's. Kerry Cantera sixth. Philip Forrester seventh. Mark Royce in eighth. Matthew Lutz falls to ninth. And looks like we've only got those 9 cars on track, as our 10th never made their start. John Barry did not get to the track. So we have 9 cars that ended up making the start, and they are all chasing Giancarlo right now, who is out front and pulling away.
Yeah, that start was really, really nice. And you talked about this particular section. You see Juan Salazar going, looking to the inside of his teammate JP Alfonso. Go ahead and trying to make that. This is a really great passing zone. If you can get the run off that corner and get the run down the straightaway, and it looks like JP Alfonso kind of just lets him have it, doesn't fight him too hard, and moves Juan Salazar up to that third position. You talked about this racetrack, and I really, really enjoy this racetrack. All the way back to Forza Motorsport 2, used to run a lot of laps on this track, and what I love about it is it has everything. It's got long straightaways, so if you've got muscle under the hood, this track will showcase it better than almost any. But also the elevation changes, the S's. There's so many runoff places where if you make a mistake, especially right through here in these S's, you're not going to recover. It's going to be a good 20-30 seconds of you milling around in the grass before you actually get back on track. So even though there's only 9 cars here tonight, this track is going to take every ounce of concentration to get around here and not make a mistake, as looks like Michael Lutz has already done that. He had gone off track.
You're exactly right. Well, he kept it on track, but going into the first corner, attacked it very aggressively, just got loose on those cold tires. Matthew Lutz did, as we get a replay here. Spins it around and gets it back going. You see it right there. The spin, locks it down, and then wait, throw it to the right, and get rolling once again. Very nearly gets into the grass, and that would have cost another spin right there, but that definitely puts him behind the 8 ball and far behind the rest of the field. Mark Royce, as well as the next car in front of him, in 8th, and he seems to just be taking it slow, be nice and patient, and don't overdrive the car. Like you said, this is a very difficult course. It has everything, but it means there are a lot of opportunities to make a mistake, and those mistakes do hurt you. So I know for me, when I'm driving this place, I've always struggled here. So the smart thing to do for me is take it nice and slow, be smart, hit my marks, and just, get what I can out of it rather than try and fight the car too much. And it looks like that's going to be the strategy for JP Alfonso as well, who, like you said, Juan Salazar made the move, was looking aggressive. JP just backed out, said, I've got what I got. If you want the spot that badly, it's all yours. Kerry Cantera has taken it to the garage as well. He is out of the race. Looks like there may have been an incident there. We'll go back and... Oh, wow. We may be able to find a replay of it, but if we cannot, coming out at the top of the S's, caught that little bit of dirt right at the top and actually went up and over and just gone. I mean, just absolutely gone, and parked the car for the day, said enough's enough, and headed on out.
Yeah,
It is a... Go ahead.
Just dip those right sides off in the dirt, and that was all it took, and it was off to the races, right into the wall.
Yeah, it was off of the races. He is completely out of this one right away. He just went end over end. Out front, it's about a 5-car breakaway. They're all pretty close together. And then about 2 seconds back from Daniel Ott in 5th to Philip Forster in 6th. Right now, we do have 8 cars remaining on track. And I think really any of these guys could come out on top. It's going to be very difficult for them to get to Giancarlo and get around him and beat him, but with some creative pit strategy or perhaps a mistake out of the 10, one of these drivers on the track still, with Matthew Lutz having the biggest to overcome with a 31-second deficit after that spin earlier. But crazier things have happened. I really think any of these drivers do have a chance at winning here with how difficult of a track this is and how much a mistake can penalize you.
Yeah, and it's going to be extremely difficult because what you talked about earlier was if you were driving the race, you would be, hey, I'm going to take it easy, try to minimize the mistakes. But if you're going to catch Schliemann, who is already out to about a 3-second gap over Juan Salazar, about a second over Nick Sorensen, you're not going to be able to take it easy. Every little bit you can get, and if you go on board with Juan Salazar, who is he's definitely never one to take it easy. He is always pushing the car to the limit. We'll go on board with him through the S's and just watch how much he's trying to get out of the car to even stay with these guys. Going up through the S's here, just so much elevation change. The car gets super light right here as you try to unload to the right-hander. And, man, it is very, very scary. But you see he's using every bit of the track he can, and he's still losing time. Oh, he's going to actually run off the track there. But no problem for him.
Welcome to the booth. Your first instance of the commentator's curse. Congratulations.
Oh, it looks like Daniel Ott.
Oh, no.
Into the wall. Yeah.
Daniel Ott washes out at the same place as Kerry Cantera. It's so easy to do. You get to the top of those S's. If you overdrive them at all, which you have to drive them hard, you push the car as hard as you can. You need to get to the top of the S's as fast as possible, but the car gets light, and it's so easy to overdrive it. You catch those back tires in that dirt strip there, and you just have no control. That was a hard shot into the wall, but I'll tell you what, that is far from the worst damage that you could take if you're Daniel Ott right there. And these drivers have at least 2 pit stops that they need to make. So with some creative strategy here, you could pit, take a little bit of time, maybe 10 seconds, fix as much as you can, pray that the damage is as little as possible. But that car is definitely struggling right now as it reaches a top speed of 145 when other drivers are well exceeding that. So yeah, it's very, very rough to see that.
I think his dentist loved to see that hit. That was a good one.
Yeah, that really, really hurt the front end of that car as he does choose to come down pit road here. It's a very difficult pit road to enter as well, but makes it work. And now the biggest thing to overcome with this is the front end damage, and it knocks the toe out of place. The car won't drive right, and you sort of have 2 choices. You can either ride around and be miserable inside the car because it's not driving right and you have no idea what it's going to do. You spent all week practicing on your setup and getting it perfect, and now all of a sudden it's completely destroyed and everything's out the window because the front end's all out of place. Or you come down like Daniel did, you hit pit road, you get it repaired, and fight your way through it, overcome the time deficit rather than trying to drive through a broken car. Speaking of time deficits, the lead pack has sort of split apart here. They're still all pretty close to each other. Philip Forster now being the 5th car there, rounding out the pack. Nick Sorensen is now about 1.5 seconds off of the leader, Giancarlo. JP Alfonso another 2 seconds back from Nick, so 3.5 total. Juan Salazar now has fallen back to 4th behind JP Alfonso and is about 4.3 seconds back, which is 0.5 second behind JP himself. So these drivers are starting to split apart. The leader's last lap, Giancarlo, was a 1:18.355, and Nick Sorensen was a 1:18.548. It's yet to be seen if Giancarlo just has a quick setup on the short run, or if he's just sort of playing with his food here and has a lot more in this car that he doesn't need to show off because he's pulling away from the field. JP Alfonso being slow and steady and patient in 3rd with a 1:18.613. Juan Salazar, though, with a 1:18.397 is very much right on top of the lap times of Giancarlo, but the problem is he's got a 4.3 second deficit, which doesn't sound like much, but it's very difficult to overcome at a course like this.
Yeah, it looks like he's already lost that position to his teammate. But we went on board with him and just trying to get as much as he can. He was one of the fastest cars on the track, and may have had to take a little bit of your advice and just back off just a little bit, let the race come to him as he falls back behind his teammate JP Alfonso. Let's go on board, I think, with Schliemann, and let's see what it takes to get around this track. He's doing it better than anybody else right now.
Well, he's got the skill in that Lamborghini. May be one of the only Lamborghinis in the field, if not the only Lamborghini. As he just goes right up through the S's here. You'll see it. He doesn't need to push the car. He doesn't need to do anything crazy. This big dip right here, hard on the throttle. Don't slide off there like we saw a couple laps ago. Get down to third. Don't touch that dirt. And get it back up to speed. Up next is the double right-handers coming up. You got to make sure that your entry here, you don't overdrive it, and make sure you don't underdrive this next corner either, because it sets you up for the long straightaway. Comes off the corner in second, quickly up to third, then fourth, fifth, sixth, by the time he reaches the two 90-degree bends, left, right, back to back, before coming off to the first front stretch and to the start-finish line. That's how you get around here. You see it up to sixth gear here, going downhill. This is very tough. You're going downhill, you're braking, you're pushing the car as hard as possible, all the way down from sixth to second in just a matter of 100 yards or so. Then third, fourth, you're wide open all the way through here. You may have to just lift the throttle a hair coming here, depending on how much grip you have. And then you are getting into sixth gear right before you get to the first turn. Hard on the brakes all the way down to fourth. A lot of drivers taking that in third as well, depending how aggressive you want to be. So keep it in a higher gear, carry that momentum, and you are back. That is a lap here in 1 minute and 18 seconds. 1 minute, 18.088 seconds there for Giancarlo, who is absolutely hauling the mail around here. He's running within a tenth and a half of his best lap, and he's on lap 8 currently.
Well, you know what I noticed watching that lap is, and it's always the same with really, really good road course drivers. You'll see guys who can run fast laps who are really, really working the wheel, sliding the car all over the place. But watching that lap, and it's easily 0.3 faster than anybody else on the track. How smooth it was. He was very, very smooth into the apex, his on throttle, not really dipping the tires off too much, just being as smooth as possible. And a lot of times that's the fastest guys, that's how they are. And that's exactly how Schliemann is.
And part of it as well is a mental game where when you're in the lead, you don't have anything to worry about, especially when you're Giancarlo. You've had a very good series of performances so far for the races that you've run. You're pulling away from second place. You know your car is good. You know that you're a good driver. What do you have to worry about? So you're not pushing the car. You're not overdriving your entries or exits. You're just sort of out there on a Sunday drive. You don't have anything to worry about. Versus Nick Sorensen in second, you're looking at Giancarlo and saying, well, he's been kicking our butts these past couple weeks. He's clearly very strong here. He's running lap times that are faster than mine. He's got really good strategy. He's got long run pace. We've seen it over the past couple weeks. I need to push the car as hard as possible. And so you're going to see a mistake. If you're going to see one on track, it'll come from the guys in second, third, fourth, fifth. Not because they're not good drivers, but because they have to drive so much harder than the leader. They have to push the car versus the leader. Giancarlo is just out for a drive, and if he needs to pick up the pace, he knows he can, but he's comfortable right now. 118.101 that last lap compared to Nick Sorensen's 118.224. He's got a 2.3 second gap out the front. He's not worried at all. He's pulling time on JP Alfonso, Juan Salazar, who are running back in about 118.6 or so. Very consistent lap times around 118.6. And then Philip Forrester has fallen back to about 9.4 seconds off, running 118.9s. Mark Royce with 119.5s. We mentioned earlier his strategy from the beginning seemed to be slow, steady, methodical, don't make any mistakes, don't wreck the car, and he's gone from 10th all the way up to 6th now. So he's having himself a very good night. He is the 6th of 6 cars driving on track. We have 2 in the pits, Daniel Ott and Matthew Lutz, both of which who had some trouble, and Kerry Cantera is out of the race and parked after catching the same spot as Daniel Ott earlier. Kerry Cantera is out of the race. However, Matthew Lutz and Daniel Ott seem to be sticking around so that they can race for 7th place because they are the last 2 drivers on track, both of which are 4 laps down. John Barry did not start the race, and Don York did not start the race. He is up in control of everything, running the admin booth for the series, so he's not running.
Yeah, still watching this little battle here, and it's hard to say if you know how much they're trying to work together. I mean, you really can't work together. Just a little bit of draft down those straightaways, not really going to gain you that much. Both these drivers are really good, but you just wonder how much they're trying to figure out strategy, work together, try to figure out a way that they can leapfrog. You know, the two up front, Nick Sorensen and Giancarlo Schliemann. But right now, I mean, if you're JP Alfonso, you're just thinking about points, and Juan Salazar, you know, is right behind you in the point standings, and he would love to get in front of him. If you're JP Alfonso, you may not want to just move over and let him go. You know, early in the race maybe, but you know, now as we get into it, you try to defend a little bit, knowing that what's on the line.
I think JP Alfonso is definitely going to not make it easy for Juan Salazar to get around. This time we saw it earlier in the race where he sort of just let him go, but right now Juan Salazar is right on that back bumper, and if JP wanted to let him go, he would let him go, but he's got about 2 or 3 car length gap out the back to Juan Salazar, JP does, so I think you're right. He is going to fight him here just for the points, for everything else. We're about a quarter of the way through the race. There's 44 minutes, give or take, remaining. These drivers do have to make 2 pit stops as well, so pit cycles could start soon here, depending on their strategy. But right now, Giancarlo is out front and still pulling. Just ran his fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.866. His best in practice was a 1:17.816, and in qualifying he ran a 1:17.661. Coming to the line right now, that lap was a little bit slower with a 1:18.05. But all eyes are on this battle back here as JP Alfonso falls behind Juan Salazar now. So this is going to be interesting. How much does JP push the car trying to get back around Juan? Does he sit back and wait? Is he patient? We will have to look and see as JP gains a lot of ground right there in the S's. Looks like his car is just locked in for these S's while Juan Salazar is sliding around a bit more. That could be the result of some patience from JP Alfonso, or he's just set up for that. Remember, this is an open setup series here, the JP Alfonso GT3 series. So these drivers are not all on the same equipment. They're in different cars with different strengths, different setups, all working their magic to try and get themselves to victory lane. But they got to get around Giancarlo to get there, and that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think trying to get around Giancarlo may be a pipe dream at this point. I think it's just trying to maintain, hope that he makes a mistake, because I just don't know how much you can push these cars. But talking about him so fast through the turns, like the quick S's, and all season it's been that way for JP Alfonso. He drives the Porsche and has been one of the better cars in any kind of quick left to right handers. In those corners, he seems to be one of the strongest cars almost every week. I think these long straightaways may just be the biggest problem for him right now. Just seems to get pulled by the Ferrari a little bit down the straightaway, because both times that's when Juan has been able to get around him.
We've seen in the past, you're right, him very strong on the left and right hander. The tight track certainly worked to his advantage, and through the S's, we see JP Alfonso definitely make up some time, but the overall lap time is what's most important, and he's about a 10th and a half off of Juan Salazar up in front of him. They are both, Juan Salazar, I should say, is about a 10th and a half off of Nick Sorensen, who is about half a second off of Giancarlo that last lap. We ran a 1:17.925. 3.2 second lead now over Nick Sorensen in the 20, 7.3 over Juan Salazar, 8 seconds flat over JP Alfonso, and 13.4 seconds over Philip Forster. Barring any major mistakes, which absolutely are possible from these drivers, it's very easy to do. Maybe Juan Salazar and JP Alfonso will swap positions a few more times. We'll have to wait and see. As pit cycles have begun, JP Alfonso and Juan Salazar both come into pit, while Giancarlo and Nick Sorensen stay out. Behind, Philip Forster also stays out. Mark Royce has not yet reached pit road. He may come in. But the two drivers battling for position, JP Alfonso, Juan Salazar, the ones that we are saying are most likely to swap around their positions here in this race. have both now come to pit road, and they are both in their boxes at the moment. We'll see who gets out first because we've seen how difficult it is to make passes here. If JP Alfonso finds a way to get off of pit road quicker ahead of Juan Salazar, that puts Juan Salazar right back behind the 8 ball, and he has to work everything he can to try and get around. But Juan Salazar will win this race off of pit road with JP Alfonso right behind.
Yeah, well, tell me, Jeff, what do you think you can do as far as strategy-wise? We know they have to make 2 pit stops, and one of them at least has to have tires. So you can have a fuel-only stop, and then one you have to take a set of tires. So how do do you just come in, try to keep the heat in those tires, get fuel-only, knowing you have to make 2, and try to save the tires towards the end of the race? What can you do to try to leapfrog and try to make up 3 or 4 seconds on somebody who's ahead of you?
It's very difficult in this scenario to make up time while you're on pit road because everyone has to follow roughly the same pit strategy, and you know that on one stop you're taking only fuel, one stop you're taking your tires. So with that in mind, I would do what these drivers did. Since it's only an hour-long race, tires aren't a necessity per se, so I would come down about 20 minutes in, I would just take fuel, go out and run maybe 10-15 minutes, cut it a bit short, and then these tires over time get better and better and better. So you don't want too much time on old tires or new tires. So I would try and split it personally as close to halfway as possible. Even if that means I'm a little bit wonky on the fuel strategy where I pit after 20 minutes and then pit after 10. If you can make the full 30 minutes on the fuel tank, then I would say pit as early as you can for those new tires, as close to halfway as possible. That way you're not losing too much of having either new tires on the car while they're cold versus long run speed as these tires gain more heat in them and before they wear out and start losing speed. So in short, pit as close to halfway as possible would be my advice, but you have to take a fuel only stop first before you do that.
Yeah, coming from oval, it's interesting because just how tire wear is so important to lap times. But here, it's not that big a deal. It's actually can be a detriment to put cold tires on, especially if you're trying to make a move, run somebody down. Those cold tires can actually be a problem as you have to get the heat back in them. The wear doesn't seem to be a big a deal, and so it's interesting to see when and where you might want to take those. You got Nick Sorensen and Philip Forster coming down pit road to make their stops.
And those are good calls for them now that they're about 38 and a half minutes remaining. I think Giancarlo, everyone's sort of basing their strategy off of him. If they short pit him a little bit, it really won't hurt him. Like I said, you have to make the one pit stop for fuel and one for tires and fuel. So he's not too worried at all. And you're right, it is very different coming from the oval side. I think that's where both of our expertise mostly lies. But when we're driving on the oval, we always want new tires. If we had an infinite supply of tires, we would come and pit every time just to take new tires because they are that important. There's almost no detriment when they're cold. You just throw new tires on and you're good to go. But on the road side, the tires are harder. They're you're turning left and right. And I would say the tires go through more wear as Giancarlo comes down pit road right here. So the tire strategy is completely different. On the oval side, every pit stop, we're begging our crew chiefs to let us come in and take tires. Give us something new. Let me go back out there because you start out on oval, new tires, you're as quick as possible, and then you fall off from there. Versus on the road side, it might be 5-10 laps before your tires have come in. So for the Daytona 24, which is coming up here in 2 weeks' time, a week from this weekend, you are going to run 2, 3, maybe even 4 stints on a set of tires for the GT3s, the LMP2s, the LMDHs. I remember back last year on the tire model that iRacing had in the past couple years in the LMP2, you would go 5 stints on one set of tires because it was just faster to be out on those old tires for 5 stints. I mean, that would be 100 laps on a set of tires at Daytona, which is 250 miles. And you would be out there running on those, and that would be quickest.
Oh,
and
the only Juan Salazar going off the track. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem.
Yeah, he goes through the S's and just drops the left sides off right in front of JP Alfonso, but does a great job of getting it back on track. Didn't even lose a spot. Very, very scary spot to drop the tires off. But Juan Salazar, your points leader, no issue for him as he just needed to wake up, I think is what it was. He's starting to nod off just a little bit and drop those tires off, sort of an adrenaline shot, but able to get it back on the track, still about half a second ahead of his teammate, JP Alfonso.
Now, he may also have to serve an iRacing slowdown for this. So when you go off track in iRacing and you cut the course, quote unquote, you will have to serve a time penalty. So if you cut through the bus stop at Daytona, you'll get a time penalty. If you cut through any portion of the course to make it shorter, you miss a corner, you'll have to serve a time penalty. Now, those aren't issued post race like they are in real life on occasion. Those are served right then, right there at after it happens. And it looks like Juan Salazar may have gotten very lucky and does not have to serve that. He's still out front of JP Alfonso, and it's about 30 seconds that iRacing will give you to slow down enough. But I think you're right, just a little adrenaline shot to wake him up. Maybe it was the cold tires out there like we were talking about. Yep. Well, no, because he didn't take tires on that stop. So,
well,
man, oh man.
Let's take a little replay and let's look at it if we can from JP Alfonso's point of view.
There's nothing scarier than when the guy in front of you goes flying off track and you don't know where he's going to come back on. So
you see him out on the grass now. And, yeah.
somehow manages to not only go through the grass without spinning out, because when you're in the grass, you can't really hit the gas or brake without spinning the car out. So does a phenomenal job driving through the grass where it's pretty much ice, it feels like, and gets back on course and makes the next corner without any issues.
Yeah,
so
really, really incredible. Yeah, it looks like he goes down into the turn one and just gets a little bit too tight as the front end sort of slides on him, and just not able to get the fronts to grip and get back on the track. And just takes a little shortcut, like you said. I don't know. Did a great job though. That was pretty impressive.
You might, some viewers might say, "Oh well, that was a mistake by him." Which it was, to go off track, so he's not a good driver if he's making mistakes like that. No, I'd say he's a phenomenal driver for being able to hold on to that and go through the grass somehow, some way without spinning that car out. It is incredibly easy to do, to just spin that car right out. As we near halfway, though, you can't afford to make mistakes like that. He got lucky. It might be time for him to cash out at the casino, stop pushing his car this hard, as JP Alfonso is right there on that back bumper. But will he be able to make a move and get around based on raw speed, or does he need Juan Salazar to make a mistake? As it seems, Nick Sorensen has fallen behind these two, is gaining on them up ahead, but that's very interesting. I'm wondering if Nick Sorensen didn't take his tires on that last pit stop.
Yeah, it looks like about 6 seconds longer in pit road. So it looks like him and Schliemann both took tires on that last stop.
They did indeed, as the car was lifted up into the air for Nick Sorensen on that last pit stop. So now Sorensen has those new tires. I don't think that's a bad strategy, as close to halfway as you can get. Now on this next pit stop, he's going to be much quicker and will be able to, I think, leapfrog these two ahead of him. But what could hurt him is if he gets stuck behind them, can't make the pass. Now he's fallen back to their pace when he was pulling away from them earlier. Now he's back to running their pace, which is overall slower. He'll still be able to get around them during the pit stop, because he won't have to take tires, and they will, as Juan Salazar jumps that curb right there. But Nick Sorensen now will have to be running at their pace, which could hurt him because we know he's able to go quicker.
Yeah, and we talked about, before we were talking about what can these two do to maybe make up some ground, and that was one thing they decided to do, not take tires the first stop when it seems like everybody else went ahead and took their set. So they're trying to do that strategy of playing sort of blocker and keep Nick Sorensen back there, maybe able to, on the next stop, hold on to that track position. So we talked about ways that they could attempt to make up some ground, and that seems to be what they decided to do. So we'll see if it works out.
The big winner of it all, though, isn't Juan Salazar or JP Alfonso. I would say Nick Sorensen is sort of the big loser in that, but that is huge for Giancarlo, because Nick Sorensen was the closest driver of any that was able to match his pace and be close to him on lap times. The worst that difference that there was between the two was about half a second on one lap. So Nick Sorensen has the pace. He's not as quick, but he's pretty darn close. So Giancarlo making a small mistake. He goes through the grass like we saw Juan Salazar do. He makes some sort of small mistake. That could have given Nick Sorensen the opportunity. But now that Nick is stuck behind them,
Juan
and speaking
Salazar
of going
goes
through the grass,
yeah.
There goes Juan Salazar once again. So now Nick Sorensen is behind this car who's gone off twice now. He's at risk of being behind when there's a mistake that happens and having to check up and let Juan Salazar get control of the car again. Or Juan Salazar makes a mistake, Nick Sorensen goes around and then gets into an incident with Juan Salazar. Or Nick Sorensen overdrives, gets into Juan Salazar, not saying that Juan is going to be the only one that makes a mistake here, because we've seen others tonight that took out Daniel Ott, Matthew Lutz, Kerry Cantera, who have all three parked it for the night so far. But you see my point with now Nick Sorensen is back there running at the pace of these guys and is at risk, while Giancarlo is still out ahead, still pulling away, and doesn't have a worry in the world, as he's now got 6.3 seconds over Juan Salazar that last lap, which is going to change now to JP Alfonso. I'm guessing a 6.7 second lead once they get to the line momentarily.
Well, interesting enough, Giancarlo Schliemann actually 0.3 faster than he was at least dead even with them on brand new tires, which is really impressive, knowing what I know about heat cycles and what they need to get the maximum grip. And so he's able to match their lap times really, really quickly on a new set of tires.
JP Alfonso lost some time that lap to 8.5 seconds because he did have to check up for Juan Salazar, who went through the grass there. So we talked about the grip through the S's. We saw Juan Salazar was really struggling through the S's, while JP Alfonso was able to eat up that lead that was in front of him at the time, while Juan Salazar was able to pull away on the straightaways, and JP Alfonso was sort of a sitting duck. He's sitting there in the draft, but just didn't have the straightaway speed to catch up. Now JP Alfonso's out in front. The big thing about GT3 cars, though, is a lot of the passes are made on corner entry or in the corners by being aggressive. And if JP Alfonso has that superiority in the corners like we've seen, it'll be very difficult for Juan Salazar to make a pass. Keep in mind, though, at Road Atlanta, there are these long straightaways which can absolutely work to your advantage. If you have better straightaway speed, you can make those passes, get side by side, and just have the lane going in for the last corner, let's say, and to be able to take advantage of it. So these drivers, it will balance out for these drivers. Both cars are capable of running similar lap times to each other. But right now, Nick Sorensen's running 118.4s on those newer tires behind 118.2s and 118.0s from the two drivers ahead of him. But we know Nick Sorensen is capable of faster. He's capable of 118.0s, so his pace is definitely hurt right now behind these two guys in front of him.
Yeah, he's starting to put a little pressure here on Juan Salazar, though, as they go up through the S's, as Juan has just sort of been erratic a little bit, trying to get as much as he can out of the car. With some really amazing saves. I would say he probably dipped those tires off just to cool them off a little bit after he heated them up going into turn one and wanted to just get some of that grass and cool them down. But Nick Sorensen, man, he is coming now. So, but you're right, Nick's going to have to make quick work. He doesn't have a whole lot of time to waste if he wants to try to get that time back that he lost with the pit stop differences. So, be interested to see if he's able to do anything with them, how long it's going to take for him to try to make a move. He's definitely faster. We'll see how that plays out in the next couple laps with about 27 minutes left in this thing.
27 minutes, 44 seconds remaining for these drivers. JP Alfonso sits second, Juan Salazar third, Nick Sorensen fourth, Philip Forrester in fifth, Mark Royce in sixth. Those are the only drivers remaining on track. Behind them are Daniel Ott, Matthew Lutz, Kerry Cantera, and John Barry. Don York did not start the race because he is up in the admin booth in charge of everything here tonight. And all those drivers that I just mentioned are chasing just one, Giancarlo in the number 10. Schliemann has been absolutely on top of his game so far tonight. A 118.697 in the lead versus a 118.353 behind him, but it's still 7.78 seconds back to JP Alfonso. I think Giancarlo is just being patient, doesn't need to burn up his stuff or do anything reckless. He's got enough of a lead and cushion that he knows he's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Tonight's race is brought to you by JP Alfonso Studios. They are the title sponsor of this GT3 series for the Ignite Racing League. They are a tattoo shop just down the street in Norcross, Georgia, from where we are currently at Road Atlanta in Georgia. You can go to jpalfonsostudios.com to see all of their recent work and get booking information. So when JP Alfonso isn't busy drawing up amazing tattoos for all of his clients there, he's busy working on the card, on his driving skills, under the hood, making sure that he can be as fast as possible and try and get the overall points championship. He hasn't been able to bring home the win yet, but it is not for lack of trying, as he runs second place right now behind Giancarlo. Big thank you as well to the other series partners, Tam Livery and Hot Rod Setups. Be sure to check them out on social media. Usually on Facebook is the best way to get in contact with those two brands specifically. And we want to thank you for tuning into tonight's broadcast right here on Maconi Entertainment. If you're ever looking for entertainment needs for your broadcasting, your iRacing league, whatever you need broadcasted, we have got you covered. We are on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. We can go on to Twitter. Anywhere where you can broadcast a race, we can make it happen, and that's where you can find us. So thank you for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it, as we are just past the halfway point. We have Giancarlo Monetti Schliemann in the 10 leading the way, putting down some blistering lap times and absolutely dominating the competition from the drop of the green flag. Qualified first and hasn't left it since. In second, JP Alfonso. In third, Juan Salazar. Fourth is Nick Sorensen. Philip Forster a bit further back in fifth. Second through fourth are all packed together. Philip Forster is about 10 seconds back from that battle in fifth. Mark Royce in sixth. And then in seventh, eighth, and ninth, you have Daniel Ott, Matthew Lutz, and Kerry Cantera, who are all out of the race after starting it. John Barry did not take the green flag, and Don York is overseeing everything from above as the race controller.
You know, this battle for second place between JP Alfonso, Juan Salazar, and Nick Sorensen, it really proves the point that, sometimes quality over quantity. And this series, for only, there's only 6 drivers on the track at the moment, but we still have a fantastic battle for second place. Lots that can go here, lots of point standings, championship implications here. And so for the last, 10, 15 minutes has been a really amazing battle to see Juan Salazar trying to break the draft as Nick Sorensen has finally got up to the back bumper of that number 1 Ferrari. But man, just awesome racing every single week, and it looks like it's going to continue as we only have about 24 minutes left to go to see if Nick Sorensen can do anything with these 2 drivers in front of him.
We will have to see. And if I'm Nick Sorensen right now, my goal is to get out in front of these guys and not be stuck behind them. He's losing time. He's losing pace. He's faster than these two, but just can't get around them. In that BMW, he's struggling to work his way around Juan Salazar in the Ferrari, who's very, very quick on the straightaways, but struggling in the corners. Hasn't opened the door for Nick Sorensen to make a pass yet. And then JP Alfonso, who's struggling on the straightaways, but very, very strong throughout the S's and the corners and everything else. So JP Alfonso is actually running some very competitive lap times. The lap before this one was a 1:18.124 versus a 1:07 from Giancarlo. That last lap had a bit of a mistake of 1:18.527, while Giancarlo's getting quicker with a 1:18.0, a 1:18.472 for Juan Salazar, and a 2:73 for Nick Sorensen. He's quicker, he just can't find a way around. So if I'm Nick, I'm pitting as soon as that fuel window opens, and I can make it to the end on gas. I know how long the race is going to be from here, 22 minutes, 50 seconds. I'm hitting pit road as soon as I can so that I'm not stuck behind these two anymore. He needs to get around them in order to have a chance at Giancarlo if he happens to make a mistake. But it may just be a mistake is what's necessary by Giancarlo for Nick Sorensen to have a chance at them.
Yeah, and you could notice, just in that last section there, and if we watch as they go through the S's, you'll see, unless a mistake happens, Nick's car just not that good through this section. You can definitely tell he's put a lot of stock in those long straightaways. Not able to be as nimble as the 2 cars in front as they get really tight, and it makes me look like a dummy. But he last time by, he was really had a lot of understeer through this section, and you start to see him pull away just a little bit, but definitely has long the speed down the straightaway to make up for it. But you can definitely tell he's just not comfortable through those S's. I'm sure a new set of tires might help with that.
They absolutely will. Keep in mind, JP Alfonso, Juan Salazar have not taken their tires. Nick Sorensen and Giancarlo have. That's why we are so confident that Nick Sorensen is going to be able to leapfrog them in the pits, because he's going to have a much shorter pit stop, needing to only take fuel, while JP and Juan do need to take tires as well. So that's why we're saying that Nick Sorensen will leapfrog ahead of them, not for any other reason other than he's already taken his time penalty of having to take tires, while the other drivers have not. However, these long-run tires on JP Alfonso and Juan Salazar are holding up quite well. They are putting down some good lap times. But Nick Sorensen now is going to be able to go around them as he stays out long compared to JP Alfonso and Juan Salazar, who once again both pit at the same time. They're both going to need to take tires here. We'll see if JP Alfonso is going to be able to beat Juan Salazar out of the pits. We saw last time that Juan won the race off pit road, but he was in the lead at the time. We will see who comes out on top as these drivers will both need to take 4 tires and fuel.
Now, do you think that was planned as they come in and you can see them getting jacked up to take those side? Ooh, actually, Alfonso actually slides through his pit stall a little bit. Do you think that as they saw Nick Sorensen getting closer and closer, knew it was inevitable and knew that they needed to go ahead and get down pit road before he's able to get around him?
I think it mostly fell on the fact that it was about 20 minutes remaining. So if you're going to break this race into 2 pit stops, you break it into 3 segments. So you would pit every 20 minutes. So I think that was their main focus as Juan Salazar wins the race off pit road. JP Alfonso, with that tiny mistake, drives just a little too far over his box. But those 2-3 seconds make all the difference in the world as he has to put it in reverse, back it up, stop the car, and then get lifted in the air, while Juan Salazar was able to just stop, get lifted up, and go right on out. So that is a costly mistake for JP Alfonso. Throws out all that work that he did trying to stay in front of Juan for the last 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough to watch Juan Salazar drive off into the distance, especially now that your tires are cold. It's going to take 2 or 3 laps for him to get up to temperature, so you can't even really push to try to run him down. It's just a horrible feeling as he sees Juan be about 2.5 seconds ahead of him. Just like good that you see them weaving. They're communicating, yeah, just a tough deal there to slide through your pits. I mean, it's just it's just not the right time, especially on the last pit stop, to have a slide through your pit.
And I'll tell you what, as someone who has made mistakes like that many, many times, there is nothing more frustrating than a mental mistake that you make on your own that costs you a chance at second, third place, really a chance at a podium here. It's just so frustrating when it's someone else that makes a mistake and you get wrapped up in a wreck. Sure, you're mad, but you're mad at them. You know, you're mad at the world. You're mad at this outside force that caused this wreck where you had nothing to do with it. It wasn't your fault. You just caught the short end of the stick, and you there was nothing you could do differently. But when it's a mistake that you make and you're the one that overdrove your box, or you drove off the track and you made that mistake, it is so much worse as a driver. And it just, the biggest thing now is he can't let it eat at him. He has to get back on top of it. We saw that he was quicker than Juan Salazar. He got around him. He passed him twice so far this race. He can do it a third time, but now he has to overcome this deficit to do it. He built up the heat in those tires on that last run down the backstretch there where you saw them weaving back and forth. That was to build up heat in the tires a little bit quicker. And now it's just all on him. Will he be able to overcome this small deficit of about 2.5 seconds to catch up to Juan Salazar and get around him? He's got 18 minutes to do it, just under, as we are watching now, waiting for these next drivers to come down pit road and make their final pit stop of the race. Something to note, Mark Royce has pulled it to the side and parked it. He will come home 6th tonight. These drivers will all walk out with the top 5, but the big question is, who is going to be on the end of the podium as Philip Forster is yet to pit? We believe that Juan Salazar and JP Alfonso one of them will finish 3rd, the other one 4th.
Yeah, it's interesting. Phil Forster usually it just shows up at the end of these races, but tonight just hasn't had the speed. He's been extremely fast all year long. He's been in a lot of races, had some incidents here and there, but has been really, really strong, especially inside the top 5, inside the top 3 as well. So interesting to see. I think he's driving a little bit different vehicle tonight. Usually, I believe, would drive the Porsche, but tonight in the Mercedes. So maybe part of it, driving a different car. Got him a different contract, so I guess he had to swap manufacturers, but running some fast lap times. I mean, he's running 117.8, which Giancarlo Schliemann, he was running those at the end of his long run. So you definitely see Philip has some speed, just seemed to have missed it early. Maybe just a little bit of time trying to figure the car out. Has finally got it figured out a little bit too late, but showing a little speed here at the end.
He is looking stout, and like you said, he usually has speed week over week. And if this is a car change, then that absolutely can make a difference. We see the differences in the cars. Part of it is the setup, each driver building their own, but with teammates out here and everything else, there are differences in how the cars perform. For example, a lot of people say that the BMW is the best car. A lot of people say the Lamborghini is almost as good, if not a little bit better. It all depends on your driving style and everything else. I think the new meta is we're going to see a bunch of BMWs at Daytona, from what I'm hearing, but I'm far from in the loop on all of the tips and tricks of road racing on iRacing. As Philip Forrester and Nick Sorensen both come down pit road, Giancarlo decides to stay out on track in his Lamborghini. But like I was saying, it's very difficult to go from one car to another because not only is it all different setups and things that you need, but the car will perform differently in and of itself. So making a change in manufacturer is a lot more than just needing a new paint scheme. The car will drive completely differently, and you have to be able to account for that. As Nick Sorensen is now off and away on pit road with 15 minutes remaining, we're expecting Giancarlo to come in at any minute.
Yeah, I think that's what is so intriguing about the GT3 class is that there's, you can find a car that sort of makes up for your weaknesses, which is probably my favorite thing. If you drive a singular series that has a singular car, and you see Giancarlo making his pit stop now, his final pit stop, all he has to do is make a mistake-free, and he should be good. He's clear by about 45 seconds over Nick Sorensen. But it's just interesting to think that these GT3 cars can really, I mean, each track has, pros and cons that these cars can make up for. But I think it's really interesting to see driver styles and how they, what you like out of a car can really benefit from driving a BMW or a Ferrari. I know a lot of people like the Ferrari because it's a little bit more balanced. You like to attack the curbs. The Ferrari could handle that a lot better. And some, cars are a little bit faster as aggressive you are, and you can be a little bit more aggressive with, say, like the Porsche or maybe the Lambo that you can get a little bit more speed out of it. So interesting class as always, and it's really fun to see the differences really play out on iRacing that make a difference in what kind of car you choose, how you choose to, which one you pick whenever you're going to do the iRacing 24 or any sort of IMSA racing.
A lot of time and thought and consideration goes into it. Some people just choose what they see the pros are running and they think that's the best car, but it really does come down to personal preference. Unless you're at that top level where you are maxed out on driver skill, and it really does come down to everyone has to run the same car to get the most out of it. Unless you are one of those top guys, a lot of the consideration that does come in is how balanced the car is and everything else. For example, people say that the Audi is not the best. It's good, but not the best. I love that car because I just feel so stout and balanced and able to, I'm a bit slower in the corners, but I feel like I can get through them safely and not make any mistakes. It's a bit more forgiving for me, in my opinion, while other people will say, no, the Porsche because it's so responsive, or the Lamborghini with all the power and everything else. It all depends on your personal preference. And it seems like Giancarlo's personal preference is this Lamborghini, as he is just out and away and absolutely tearing it up. A 14.5-second lead over Nick Sorensen. That is going to be very difficult to overcome. I think to do it, it needs to be a major mistake from Giancarlo. Not just driving off the track, but driving off, spinning, hitting the wall, critical major mistake, which when you have a 14.5-second lead is not likely to happen because you're not pushing the car very hard. You've got this great lead that you've worked hard to put together. You don't need to push the car that hard or make any of those mistakes because you're already out there by 14.5 seconds.
Yeah, Schliemann is just double trouble. He is just one of those drivers where he's super fast. You'll usually have a couple different ones. You'll have guys that are super fast but sort of have issues staying on track, and then you have some drivers who are, able to stay on track, but just maybe a little bit slow. But he's a problem because he's both. He just doesn't make any mistakes. Since he's been here, he's made only one major mistake that's taken him out of a race. But outside of that, he's almost perfect every single race. So just tough to beat whenever you got somebody extremely fast, but also able to not make a mistake and not have any issues. But talking about issues, looks like JP Alfonso is running in 5th place, lost a couple spots because he ran off the track. We're going to check a replay on that real quick as he was running behind Juan Salazar. And, Salazar goes off the track. And, JP Alfonso has to check up a little bit, and he ends up losing the front end out of it.
Yeah, that is just one of those issues where, like I said, the guy in front of you makes a mistake and you have to react to it, and that causes a bigger incident for you. We talked about that earlier, and that just took the whole front end off of JP Alfonso's car. It's heavy damage. Not only is the front end missing, but I can guarantee the toe and everything else is all messed up. That is just so frustrating when you're a driver as well, because the guy in front of you checks up and you react to it just out of instinct, and it causes you to have a wreck. It's so frustrating. Now, if you're gonna have a mistake like that and have a night like that, at least you're only going to fall back to 5th. In a 10 car field, 9 cars started, at least you're still coming out of it with a top 5. But that is free points to Juan Salazar, who's going to come home 3rd unless he makes another mistake, with Philip Forrester just about 4 seconds behind. Unless he makes a major mistake, Juan Salazar's going to come home 3rd, Philip Forrester in 4th, JP Alfonso 5th. Not the worst that can happen, but certainly far from the best as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Having it happen at that time was perfect. With a 3-point lead over Juan Salazar when they came into this race, that means as long as JP Alfonso just finishes the race and nobody else gets back on track, which I think is pretty safe at this point, he'll only lose 2 points out of the deal, finishing where he's at. So he'll still come away with the points lead, which is pretty amazing to lose your whole front end. And come away with that. So he could have catastrophic engine failure and still hang on to it as long as Juan doesn't run down Nick Sorensen, which he is about 6 seconds ahead of him, or behind him. So he might be able to do it.
The best part of it as well is that JP can stay on track, and there's no downside to him continuing running. Either he wrecks the car because it's got damage and it's not handling correctly, and things go from bad to bad because he's not losing any more positions. There's only, Mark Royce is in 6th, and he's 11 laps down. So there's no way that he can complete 11 laps in 8 minutes and 40 seconds, excuse me. So JP Alfonso can't lose any positions, but if Juan Salazar makes a mistake, or Philip Forrester makes a mistake, or Nick Sorensen makes a mistake, and any of those guys in front of him screw up, he can capitalize on it. He has only positions to gain at this point. So it is perfect for him, as perfect as he can be with no front end, that is.
Yeah, I remember back in the day at the old Oval DWC, there was a racer by the name of Sandeep who hit the wall in one of the DWC racers, and as JP actually gets a little bit out of shape there. Hit the wall and messed up his front end, but an iRacing glitch, just the way the damage model was working at the time, he actually got really, really fast and actually ended up winning the race with a tore up front end, suspension all completely gone. Don't think that's going to happen tonight, but you never know. You never know with iRacing's damage model.
Oh, yeah. iRacing's damage model can come back to bite you, or it can reward you heavily. So this last lap looked like Juan Salazar made a mistake of 120.3 when we're used to seeing about 118s out of him, and a 118.788 by Philip Forrester behind him. Philip is gaining. He is quicker than Juan Salazar on average, but is he quick enough to catch him and pass him in the next 7 minutes, 15 seconds? That's to be seen, which JP Alfonso has just become the biggest Philip Forrester fan in the world right now, because if Juan gets passed by Philip, that will be only 1 point of the 3-point difference. So JP is rooting like crazy for Philip Forrester to find the speed with a 118.678 and a 118.704 by Juan that last lap. he is cheering for Phillip to find the speed and get around that one car.
Yeah, and one thing that Philip Forster does have on Juan so far is that Juan has just been kind of all over the place. Juan has moved up 4 spots from where he started, so he's definitely been on the move. But we've seen Juan run off quite a few times, just on edge. That setup is really, really loose. He's trying to get as much as he can out of it, but just sort of been a wild card tonight, which is just odd for Juan Salazar, who is usually extremely solid in every one of the races so far, with 4 wins on the season. I mean, he's obviously been the class of the field. This especially the season, but yeah, just for him, if he just stays in it, doesn't drop any wheels off, he should be fine. But we've just seen him be so aggressive, especially through the S's, that it's almost cost him quite a few times. It actually cost JP Alfonso the last time, as Juan was the one who ran off that caused JP to have to check up. So if you're Philip Forster, I feel like you can push Juan here, who seems to have a little chink in his armor, which is a little bit different than normal for him. But I feel like Philip can maybe pressure him into a mistake here late.
We will have to see if anyone makes any major mistakes here to the end. Philip Forster with an 118.832 versus Juan Salazar's 118.602. So now they are running about even pace, which is not what JP Alfonso wants to see. It's about a 2.4 second difference between them. Juan just needs to hit his marks here, be smart, not overdrive the car, which is very easy to do. In that Ferrari, it's been struggling in the curves, but very strong on the straightaways. So Juan just needs to be smart, be patient through the curves, and take full advantage of it on the straightaways here. We'll see what he's able to do with just 5 minutes remaining of the 1 hour race. Giancarlo out front, pulling away still, 17.3 second lead. He's cranking off 118.146s, while Nick Sorensen behind is running 118.9s, 4s to 9s. He's running anywhere in the 118s, while Giancarlo is consistently running low 118s, just absolutely on fire, getting everything done that he needs to.
Yeah, just watching Philip Forster, you can definitely see he's being really aggressive in that left to right-hander, trying to get that car to rotate. You can definitely tell he's pushing it. He's definitely not laying back, taking it easy. He's trying to get as much as he can. I mean, it made up a lot of time there. As you see Juan Salazar get really, really close. It gains almost 3/10 there, just up through that first couple corners. So Philip Forster definitely making up some ground here, especially on this lap.
Philip Forster could still get it done here as he is gaining on Juan Salazar. That last lap, he was about a quarter second quicker, 2/10, a quarter second quicker. If he can maintain that pace and really, really give him some hell, it is possible that he could get there, but he needs to pick it up just a little bit. It's going to be very difficult. He needs Juan Salazar to make a mistake. We've seen 2-3 major mistakes out of Juan Salazar tonight, but he's been able to correct it, drive through it, and not let them get to his head and make more and more and more afterwards. He makes the mistake, he gets right back on the horse, and he keeps riding and keeps pushing that car, which is exactly what you need to do. You can't fix the past. You've already made the mistake. Get back on it, get back out there, and keep hitting your marks, which he does right there. That last lap for Juan Salazar, a 119.185 versus a 118.857 for Philip Forster. 3/10 advantage to the 22 car, but still about 2 seconds separating the two, with Juan Salazar, 1.9 seconds with Juan Salazar out front over Philip Forster. Just 3 minutes remaining now as Giancarlo continues to pull away with these low 118s, about a second quicker than Nick Sorensen that last lap with a 119.115.
Yeah, did you see the last 2 laps? Philip Forster, about a 10th and a half a couple laps ago, and then almost 3.5 tenths that last lap. So he's definitely making up some ground really, really quickly. But I think he's just going to run out of time. I think he's going to get there, I would imagine. But I just don't know how you're going to make the pass. Just seems to be kind of struggling through those corners a little bit more than Juan is. I just don't know where he would make the pass, but you just never know.
It's very difficult to make a pass once you catch somebody, but We'll have to see what he's able to do here. Juan Salazar now coming to the line with 2 minutes remaining in the race. A 119.0 versus a 118.592 by Philip Forrester. He's gaining quickly, but it's just a matter of is there enough time right now as he's able to get around these corners much better than Juan Salazar is, but nobody can match the straightaway speed of Juan. So it's very, it's pros and cons. As you see in these S's, Juan Salazar is on the brakes a lot longer than Philip Forster, especially at the end right there, but able to get onto this mini straightaway here and gain a lot of time. These two curves right here, as long as Juan Salazar gets a really good run through the second curve and gets a good exit, he will be fine and be able to pull away on this straightaway here. Philip Forrester, though, making it look like he wants to give it a chance at getting around Juan Salazar, which JP Alfonso behind is cheering like crazy for. He wants Juan Salazar to lose points and be closer to him in the field so that it's a not as bad a night for him in the points. The points leader there in the 996. But it's going to be a great night for Giancarlo, who a 118.001 versus Nick Sorensen's 119.053. We're expecting the white flag here at any time because Giancarlo, with just 35 seconds remaining in the race, is pulling away and still out front with 20.1 seconds over second place Nick Sorensen.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better race to start out front and completely dominate by leading every lap, make really solid pit stops, and have a 20-second lead right at the end. So he'll come around and take that white flag, and one more lap, he can put her in the books. Another win on the season for Schlemmer if he can make it around. But just impressive. It's just impressive to see, because I know how much talent there is in this particular field. Juan Salazar, JP Alfonso, Nick Sorensen. That is the white flag is out. And but I tell you,
looks to me like that was
like
the checkered flag. So
yep.
It with iRacing scoring, for one thing, we don't see the white flag when we are in the race session, but it's also very close based on the average lap time, if it will throw the white flag while there's still time on the clock or if it will wait. So in this instance, it was very, very close. It was a matter of maybe 2-3 seconds being left there. So Giancarlo did take the white flag, brought home the win. The race has ended, and that means your winner is Giancarlo. In second place, Nick Sorensen. In third, Juan Salazar, who went straight right after the start-finish line into the tire barrier. In fourth, Philip Forrester, who went in right after Juan Salazar into the tires. JP Alfonso came home in fifth. Mark Royce, parked at 19 laps ago, comes home in sixth. Daniel Ott, 40 laps ago, wrecked in seventh. Matthew Lutz, 40 laps ago, in eighth. Kerry Cantera wrecked it early on, finishes ninth. John Barry did not take the grid, finishes in 10th. And Don York was the admin of the race, so he was out here overseeing everything. A phenomenal night for Giancarlo. He was dominant from start to finish. Started in first, finished in first. Nick Sorensen as well was right on his heels right at the beginning, but just over time could not match that pace of Giancarlo. Started second, finished second. Juan Salazar from seventh to third. Philip Forrester fifth to fourth. And JP Alfonso, the last of the 5 cars running, had an incident, had to check up when Juan Salazar went straight through the gravel. That got the back end of JP Alfonso's car out of shape. He finishes it in fifth. We will try and get a word in with our top 3 finishers here tonight. But once again, we do want to thank our sponsors that help make this possible. The JP Alfonso Studios Group are phenomenal, and they are just down the road from Road Atlanta in Norcross, Georgia. They are a tattoo shop. Be sure to check them out at jpalfonsostudios.com for all of their recent work and booking information. We also want to thank the series partners Tam Livery and Hot Rod Setups for all that they do to help make this possible. This was on Maconi Entertainment tonight. Myself, Jeff Maconi, alongside Eddie Smith in the booth, doing some double duty announcing and producing, so big thank you to him for that. But if you ever are in need of a broadcast, you can find us wherever you can find iRacing streams going. Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, anywhere else where you want to watch iRacing events, you can find us. So be sure to reach out to us on social media, the same places you can find information on all of these great sponsors, and get yourself shown on the big screen with our top-notch crew right here at Maconi Entertainment.
Well, all right. Well, looks like we have Giancarlo Schliemann, our race winner. So we'll go ahead and get him in here, and let's see what he thought about the race.
Hi.
We are up here with Giancarlo, who was absolutely dominant from start to finish. Giancarlo, what did you have out there that the other drivers just couldn't keep up with? After about 2-3 laps, it seems like you were just gone and nobody had anything for you for the full hour tonight.
Thanks, Jeff. Honestly, I think the main thing I had going for me was at the very start, I was able to get clear, and I think Nick behind me kind of got into a 2 or 3 wide situation that slowed him down off the start, and that little extra, that little extra gap between us helped me pull away and then just focus on hitting my marks and staying consistent.
You also pit a lot later than the other drivers with about 15 minutes remaining, while the other drivers pit 2 or 3 laps earlier with about 20 minutes remaining. What was your logic there in staying out a little bit longer for that final pit stop?
I was actually talking about this with a few of the guys during the race, that was just when I was going to run out of fuel. I'm not sure if it's a Lamborghini fuel efficiency thing compared to the other cars, or I usually do a big lift up the hill to the crest, because if I don't, I lose control of the car. So maybe that helped me. But it really just was kind of how things played out for me in the end.
Well, it looks like it all played out well here for you as you come home the winner with a 20.321 second lead over Nick Sorensen in second place. Who do you have to thank for this amazing run here tonight?
Definitely want to shout out JP as the organizer and the sponsor for everything. Big shout out to him for sure. Appreciate all that he does.
Well, congratulations on your win here tonight, Giancarlo. You've got a very difficult track next week coming up. What preparation are you going to be doing for our next event?
I do not know what the track is next week, to be honest. Do you know what the track is next week?
I believe you all are headed to the Red Bull Ring.
Okay. So a lot of off tracks are incoming. No, but it's Red Bull Ring usually makes for some great racing with the long straights and a lot of drafting. So I'm looking forward to it.
It certainly does. It's almost similar to Road Atlanta with these long straightaways into the tighter curves. So we'll have to see if you are as strong there as you were here. But congratulations on the win. Go ahead and celebrate because you've got 7 days left until this next event.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you guys for putting together the broadcast as always. Hope you have a good one.
Thank you, Giancarlo. You as well. Up next, we have second place Nick Sorensen waiting for us here as he comes up to the booth. Nick, it was a really strong race you ran that night. You ended up behind Juan Salazar and JP Alfonso there due to the pit cycle. Hindsight is 2020, but do you think that was how much of a contribution was being stuck behind those two at a track where it's so difficult to pass here when you were right after that first pit stop and waiting for the second to come up?
I guess waiting for the second pit stop, I thought they took tires the first one. Or no, that they didn't take tires. I took tires on my first pit stop. So really, in my mind, I was just thinking, stay steady, don't get any trouble here, and make a move if I can. But knowing that at the second pit stop, they might have to take tires, and I would just leapfrog ahead of them, and then ended up what happened.
Right, and you were right there at the start. Giancarlo said that probably his biggest advantage this race, that the biggest key to helping him come home the winner at the end, was that you got stuck side by side battling for position there right at the start. Do you think that's what really hurt you from the beginning, or was it something else during the race that you were stuck where you couldn't be or where you didn't want to be and ended up coming home second here tonight?
Yeah, at the beginning, I didn't get a great start, so I know we were 3 wide there for going into turn 1. So just had to be real cautious. Giancarlo got out to a jump right there, but in the end, no, we weren't going to catch him. He had the pace, and he's a really consistent driver, which is why he won by 15 seconds.
Well, regardless of that, you still managed to come home second here tonight, which is nothing to sneeze at. So, who do you have to thank for this second place run?
No, I just like to thank the other drivers here, JP, Juan, Giancarlo, and all the guys at Ignite Racing. They put on a good league and really professional drivers. Fun racing with them, and yeah, glad to be out here and get a second place.
Well, congratulations on that second place run tonight. You've got the Red Bull Ring coming up next week. We talked to Giancarlo, who was a little bit nervous about it, but there are some similarities between these two tracks. What are you expecting going into next week?
Red Bull Ring can be really tough, or if you can get the car to hook up around some of those long sweeping turns, then it can be a really fun track. So as long as you get your setup right, it's fun. If not, you might struggle a little bit. So looking forward to it though.
Well, best of luck and hopefully no struggles for you here. Congratulations on a second place run tonight. You had a great run out there. Good work, and we'll see you next week at Red Bull.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
And finally, rounding out the top three was Juan Salazar. Juan, you had a couple notable instances during the race tonight, but you managed to get it back on track, keep things going, and have a really solid run out here tonight, coming home third. How did you manage to overcome? You went off track and straight lined one part of the S's. You got into the gravel a little bit, but you always managed to just get right back on and keep hitting your marks. I don't think there was a single instance where you lost a position, even if you went off track a little bit.
I was struggling the whole race. I was struggling with grip. The car had a ton of understeer. I just had a tough time all race long, man. Even if it looked like I may have been under control, I wasn't.
Well, it looked like you certainly had the straightaways under control. You were hands down the quickest down the straightaways. You were managing to pull about a tenth or two every single time there, but that came at the cost, of the corner speed, it seems. So what were you thinking when you were going through those corners and you had a mirror full of JP Alfonso, but then you see him sort of falling off a little bit down the straightaways as you were pulling away?
I felt really bad that last incident. I think it was turn 5. I lost it, and I know JP hit the wall. I think just trying to avoid hitting me. So that was 100% on me. We had a fun race, JP and I. You know what I mean? Like I like races like this where you get to race somebody almost the whole race. Shame it ended like that though.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really a shame for you. You managed to come home third in this. That's going to be huge for the points. You've got the Red Bull Ring coming up next week. What are you thinking for that race next week, as well as the point battle, which is now getting closer?
Well, the ring is fun. I'm thinking hopefully we'll have a fuller race. Hopefully more guys will show up for that one. I think a lot of guys skipped this one. So yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Well, I hope you are just as excited for it as we are out here. Who do you have to thank tonight for this third place run, rounding out the podium?
Well, thank you guys for being there covering this thing, getting us some cool replays to watch after the race. JP for putting on the event. Donnie for being here even though he's sick as hell. That's it. Everybody that showed up today, thank you.
Well, we're sending our best over to Don York to feel better, and hopefully he was watching tonight, or hopefully he was sleeping and getting some rest. We'll have to see, but it was a great race out there. Congratulations, Juan. Great job overcoming those mistakes out on track. You can't fix them once they happen, but you can certainly make them worse. You did everything in your power to come out on top after going off track and everything else. We were talking about it in the booth. That was very impressive watching you correct anything that went wrong and stay on top of it when that car just wasn't cooperating. So great job in third.
All right, thank you guys.
Absolutely. And now in fourth place, I'm going to pass it over here to Eddie to talk to Philip, who brought it home in fourth place right on the heels of Juan Salazar.
Hey, Phil, it's Eddie in the booth. You got me? Philip, this is Eddie in the booth. You got me?
Eddie, and it's Maconi. What's up, guys?
That's right. Well, man, congratulations, man! A really, really fantastic race. For you, it kind of started off a little bit slow, kind of playing catch up for majority of the race. We noticed that right at the end there, trying to run down Juan Salazar, got so close. You were 3-4 tenths faster the last few laps, trying to pressure Juan into a mistake, but just couldn't get it done. What else did you need there to maybe get up to him and try to make a pass and get that podium spot?
New Year's setup. That's all. I was using the last year's Petit Le Mans setup. Really good setup. Just had to tweak it a little bit, but I needed a better setup. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Mercedes is a great car and everything like that. It's just the setups.
Well, speaking of, I noticed, normally I think you drive a Porsche, but this week you're driving a Mercedes. Was there a reason for the change?
Yeah, there is a reason. I'm doing another series for IMSA only for the LMDH and LMB2 GTDs, and we're using the Mercedes, so I want to get more familiar with it.
Well, what is it tonight that you noticed that the Mercedes does well that the Porsche doesn't, and maybe vice versa?
Porsche, it's just really happy under braking, especially coming over crest like turns 2 and 3. Mercedes, it's just big and boaty, so it's just planted. And I like the plant feeling more than anything.
Well, it definitely looked like you were planted there in fourth place, looking to get into third. Just needed a little bit more time, but man, you definitely made it exciting at the end. Everybody else running off track, hitting the wall, but you're able to get that boat home in fourth place. So congratulations on that. On a new car coming home in fourth, that's impressive. Man,
Thank
Phil,
you.
it's always fun to watch you, man. You're very, very exciting. I sit there and I got the cameras on you almost all the time because you're just such a good driver, especially late in the run. But congratulations on the fourth place. And who do you got to thank, man?
I'm thanking JP for putting all this together, JP and Don, y'all for the broadcast, because I always go and watch segments of it, and I've noticed that you're always on me. I don't know why. I'm not that good of a racer, but I always see myself in the cameras and stuff, and y'all talking about me and everything like that. So I appreciate y'all for putting light on my world.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're glad to watch you, man. You put on a show. Whenever you put on the show, you become the show, man. That's the way it works. So, congratulations on the fourth place finish, and looking forward to see what you do in that Mercedes next week.
Yep. Thank you. And it's always good to have home field advantage knowing the track by heart because you live 25 minutes away.
Well, there you go. All right, Philip Forrester comes home in fourth place.
And finally, rounding out the top 5 of the cars that were even running left in the field, we're going to talk to everyone who finished the race is JP Alfonso. JP, you had a great run out there, and then you had to check up for Juan Salazar, who went a little bit off course there. So what happened there from behind the wheel from your perspective?
I mean, what can I say? It's one of those things that happens in racing. So I was looking after Juan. I know he was struggling with the grip. Me and him, we were on the radio talking to each other, and he was struggling trying to maintain the car on the track. He lost it one time. I think it was in turn 3. Try to stop, because I was anticipating that him being on the grass, the car will probably take a turn to the right and trying to go back on the track. So, I mean, it's one of those things that happens. This track is one of those tracks that, is very difficult to be consistent and, hit every apex and, every braking marker like constantly. So, it's one of those things.
Well, before that, though, you were having a very, very solid race, and you managed to rebound quite well afterwards and not lose too much time, even with no front end. So before that, you were battling back and forth with Juan Salazar, and it seemed like you were very, very strong in the corners, but on the straightaways, he was able to just pull away a little bit. I guess again from behind the wheel, what were you seeing, and where were you planning to make any passes if the opportunity came up when you were that much quicker in the corners, especially through the S's?
Well, I mean, as you guys know, this is my home track, so I know the track very well in real life and iRacing. So, the main issue that I had was that, today I tried to do a little bit of practice, actually early in the morning before, I had to head out for work, and of course, iRacing was down for maintenance, so I didn't got time to really, try the car around the track and things like that, and so I trust it the car will handle and feel like always. And I was having a lot of issues in turn between turn 4 and 5 going down the S's. The car felt completely loose. Like it wanted like just give the rear end give up on me. So the only way that I can manage that, and make it a little more stable was by adding a little more wind. So I had a wind of 8 degrees. So on the straightaway, I was a sitting duck, of course. And try to push it in the tight turns and things like that. That's where the Porsche shine, and that was my whole strategy there. Just try to survive. I was feeling very insecure at that point.
Well, insecurity aside, you managed to come home fifth place here tonight. Who do you have to thank for this awesome run?
Well, like the whole team, and like always, you guys, Don York, actually, like I just found out today that he's in the hospital, so I hope he feels better soon, and so we can have him back. And of course, everybody that join us to race every week, and the usual, team Juan. We missing Jose. He's in Spain right now, so he missed the race. He was kind of bummed about it, but everybody that makes this league kind of super fun, and we all have a great time here.
Well, it sounds like it was a great time out there, and we're right there with you, sending our best to Don and hoping he gets better soon. We got the Red Bull Ring coming up next week, though. What are your thoughts going into that event before we let you run?
Oh, not my favorite track. Definitely not my favorite track. It don't matter how many laps I do there, I cannot manage to find a flow and a rhythm. So the off tracks are gonna rain. I'm anticipating I'm gonna reach my whole incident points limits. So I'll be there in the back probably.
Well, we'll see you out there. It's going to be an interesting night for the points. There are some similarities to Road Atlanta that we were talking about earlier, but I guess we will have to see how the racing goes next week. Congratulations on a fifth place run here tonight, JP. Great job out there.
Thank you guys. You guys have a great night.
That is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight. Eddie, what are your final thoughts here before we let all the viewers go about what the racing was like here tonight?
Well, I mean, my final thoughts are the same as it's been every race so far. Just amazing racing, a lot of drama, a lot of excitement. Even if there's only 5 cars on the track, just impressive what kind of skill these guys put on every week. Just amazing racing, really, really fun. Make an oval racer like myself. This series alone has made me extremely interested in GT3 cars. So another really, really fun show. Hate to see some guys that didn't get to really compete very long. Daniel Ott, Kerry Cantera, a few guys that are out that normally get up there in the mix. So would love to see them next week. Maybe at another track that they're a little bit better at, or just have better luck. And have those 5, 6 car battles like what we're used to. But again, JP Alfonso putting on a fantastic show. Don York, just want to wish him well, and just want to thank Maconi Entertainment for you putting this on, Jeff. You do a great job, man.
Well, I appreciate that. It means a lot. It makes life easy when we see amazing racing like this out here. Giancarlo comes out with the win. It was a really fun race out here tonight. And we want to thank tonight's race sponsor, JP Alfonso Studios, as well as JP Alfonso himself for going out there and racing and putting on a show, as well as all of our broadcast partners here at Maconi Entertainment. Calling the action tonight was myself, Jeff Maconi, alongside Eddie Smith in the booth, who was pulling double duty, announcing and producing. As always, we would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in for tonight's racing action, and we hope to see you on the 12th for the Ignite Racing League Hot Rod Setups Cup Series at North Wilkesboro. Until then, stay tuned to the Maconi Entertainment social media pages for all of our upcoming broadcasts and information, and a special shout out, of course, goes to the entire staff behind the scenes here for their work in bringing this racing to you, and we hope to see you at our next event. This has been a production of Maconi Entertainment, and we wish you all a good night.